Yes guys, welcome back to another episode of the MONOPOSTO track guide series. Today we have episode number 12 and we are going to be taking a look at Silverstone, the British Grand Prix, my home race, and this is also one of the best circuits to drive in this game in my opinion, so I'm looking forward to this one. So let's just get straight into it without any further ado. If you're enjoying this series, please be sure to like, share and subscribe if you're finding these videos helpful. And now let's just get straight into it. Okay then, so here we are in the pit lane at Silverstone. This is of course a very old school, high speed circuit, so therefore you don't want too much wing on the car. So I'm going to show you the setup that I ran for this hot lap. Obviously brake balance, suspension, that's very much subjective. It's just up to you depending on whatever feels the most comfortable. But in terms of wings, quite similar to Austria, you want the slider level with the W or the kind of checkered flag pattern. So that's kind of where I think is about right. You don't want too little downforce because of course there are some high speed S's, note Maggots and Becketts, and of course you could argue Vale as well, and obviously this first two corners. But as you come up towards the final corner to start the hot lap at Silverstone, you want to straight line brake at the 50-meter board or where this curb starts on the right hand side, and you want to make sure you use the full extent of the track. So you want to turn in slightly late, keep the car as far left as possible, and then just get straight on the power. Now, one tip I am going to give you is do not use ERS on the pit straight at Silverstone. You might be wondering why that seems a bit of unusual advice. Well, I'll tell you, if you use ERS, you carry too much speed and you simply can't take the first corner flat. This is what happens if you use ERS. You can see car on the left, the ideal racing line, up into ERS, then you manually disable it, you try to turn in, and then the car just snaps, and it does not work. So I wouldn't actually use any ERS at all until you get to the Hangar Straight, or certainly building up towards the Hangar Straight, or is it the Wellington Straight I meant? I can't remember off the top of my head. I know that's not very good. Anyway, this next corner, you don't want to run it in too deep, so be careful to not brake too late. It's tempting given that the DRS detection point is nicely positioned. However, you want to brake at the beginning of the black and white curb on the left hand side, straight line braking into the corner. Try not to turn in too late, and you want to just be easy on the power. Don't get on too early. The car will be on the left to begin with, then bring it all the way back over to the right hand side to open up this next corner. Hug the inside curb and just be patient before getting on the throttle. Don't get on the power too early as you'll just hit the grass. When you do get on the power, run out wide, use the full extent of this runoff up into ERS, up into DRS, then on the Wellington Straight, I think it is, I've made up my mind. And then your car's on the right hand side and you're blasting down towards the end of sector 1. So then, for this corner, I can never remember the Silverstone corner names. I think this is Brooklands. You want to be on the right hand side, again, using the full extent of the track. That includes the runoff. It's the 50-meter board and you want to brake. And rather than getting back on the power, I think it's easier to just coast through here. So there'll be a little bit of kind of throttle and brake applications, but overall I would just coast. And then through this corner, you want to ride this as much as you can. There is a bit of a dip which isn't there in real life. You can use the runoff on the inside if it feels more comfortable. It won't have any impact anyway. And you can also use that curb there on the exit. Then it's just taking the path of least resistance, using the runoff here, up into ERS, down towards Copse. My favourite corner at Silverstone. Copse is a lift. You just lift at the 50-meter board. If you try and take it flat, this is what happens. Yeah, you can imagine that's a pretty high speed, high impact crash. You don't want to be doing that. So it's just a lift at the 50-meter board. You want to turn in about where the black and white curb starts on the left hand side, and you just want to use all of this curb, but remember to come off it before it turns into gravel, otherwise you're going to spin out. That's so satisfying if you get that right. And now we come into the S's, Maggots and Becketts. These cannot be taken flat. You do have to brake going into the first S's and then into the second S's. There is just a slight lift. You can't take them flat. Obviously, the car does not like that. So you do have to be very careful. What I do recommend is, though, just as I said, just you brake for the first S's and then just kind of take it flat. I'll try and put an example in if I can remember. So you can see, as I said, one dab on the brakes, you're fighting the car to try and stop it from spinning. and then you can have 2 little dabs on the brakes, back on the power, or you can just lift, but that would mean lifting sooner than the braking points. Use all the runoff there on the right hand side, bring your car over to the left as we approach Stowe. I realise I've been calling that Vale for the rest of this video. I do apologise. As I said, I can't remember the corner names off the top of my head. This one is just 3 dabs on the brakes at the 50-metre board with no throttle inputs. Use the full extent of the tracks to make sure you're on the left on the entry. Try and avoid the inside curb if you can. It's just a bit too sketchy if you ask me, but use all of this on the exit, and then you're effectively just straightening the car up for the final chicane. So it's a brake at the 50-metre board, or if you're super confident where the black and white curb starts on the right hand side, bam, straight line braking. This time you want to turn in slightly earlier to use all of this runoff over the top of the curb, and then you want to turn in a lot earlier, of course, minimise the corner. And then you just want to go up into ERS. You can cut a bit of the pit exit off, pit entry off, whatever, if you like. Car on the left hand side, and that concludes a lap of Silverstone. That's my top tips of how to nail a lap around here in Monoposto with pretty much elite settings. I do run no driver help, very low assists, so if you want I've already done a video where I show you my settings, so yeah, you can go check them out if you want. Anyway, thanks for watching today, please subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.